A single sushi roll sold for $14 at the table can cost the owner less than $2 to make, a margin that would look absurd in almost any other business. And yet, Japanese restaurants shut down every month, selling exactly that, every single day. The simple math hides a detail that breaks the business from the inside. Sushi has quietly become one of the fastest growing segments of the restaurant industry in the United States, with thousands of Japanese restaurants now operating across the country, from all-you-can-eat buffets to high-end omakase counters, charging several $100s a seat. The category has grown by more than 60% over the past decade, driven by a customer base that treats sushi as a symbol of sophistication and health, even while paying on average between $30 and $60 a person for a mid-range dinner. But that growth hides a trap most diners never think about. The more desirable the neighborhood, the higher the rent, the higher the customer expectations, and the higher the pressure to keep every piece of fish perfectly fresh, even on a slow Tuesday night, when half the tables sit empty. The exact same menu, with the exact same recipes, and the exact same quality standard, can pull in 3 times the revenue in an upscale part of town compared to a location just a few blocks away from the main strip. Location decides almost everything before the first customer ever walks through the door. The type of clientele, the price point people will accept, the direct competition from other Japanese spots, and even whether a reliable fish supplier is close enough to deliver every single day. And there's another detail most people overlook when comparing this business to a pizza place or a burger joint. A Japanese restaurant runs on an ingredient that punishes bad math, because raw fish has a shelf life measured in hours, not days, and any overbuying turns into guaranteed loss before it ever reaches a plate. That single fact changes the entire logic of the business before the doors even open, and explains why so many passionate entrepreneurs close within their first 2 years. Compared to a pizzeria, which also runs thin margins but works with ingredients that stay stable for days, or a burger joint, which can freeze almost everything without customers noticing, a Japanese restaurant operates on a much tighter balance between buying enough and buying too much. Even the seating layout plays into the math, since a sushi bar seat generates a different rhythm of orders than a table in the back of the dining room. And owners who ignore that difference end up misjudging how many staff members they actually need on a busy night. To understand that reality, you have to understand what it actually costs to open one of these restaurants. And that number surprises even people already working in the industry. Opening a mid-sized Japanese restaurant, seating somewhere between 70 and 100 guests, typically requires an initial investment between $500,000 and $900,000, depending on the market and the quality of the location. And most of that money never shows up on the dining room walls. It goes into things a customer never sees walking through the front door. The kitchen needs dedicated cold storage to keep fish between 32 and 36 degrees, deep freezing units capable of killing parasites exactly as required by health regulations, and a sushi bar stocked with imported Japanese knives, specialized cutting boards, and refrigeration equipment that alone can cost tens of thousands of dollars. Every square foot of a Japanese kitchen costs roughly double what a standard kitchen costs, simply because of that non-stop refrigeration requirement. Then comes the opening inventory. And this is where the first real shock hits anyone who has never run a restaurant like this. An operation this size needs a direct relationship with fresh fish suppliers, often importing product from multiple countries, with deliveries required every single day, no exceptions, because there is no safe backup inventory for raw fish. That means carrying significant working capital, just to guarantee the cold room is never empty and never overloaded beyond what will sell within 24 hours. On top of that, come health permits, far stricter than almost any other type of restaurant, because of raw food handling, hiring an experienced sushi chef, a scarce professional whose salary can easily top $70,000 a year in major cities, and training an entire front and back of house team specifically for the rhythm of an all-you-can-eat service. Many new owners underestimate that last piece completely. It is not enough to hire servers. You have to train a full operation to run dozens of different dishes, back-to-back, non-stop, through 3 straight hours of a packed Friday night. There's also capital set aside for the first few months of operation, when word of mouth is not built yet and foot traffic swings unpredictably from week to week. Once the doors finally open, money starts coming in fast, but it also starts going out fast. And that is exactly where the business reveals its true nature to anyone who only saw the glamour from the outside. Even the build-out timeline adds pressure, since permits for handling raw fish can take months longer to clear than a standard restaurant license, meaning rent and loan payments often start well before the first customer ever places an order. A mid-sized Japanese restaurant in a major market typically brings in between $200,000 and $350,000 a month, combining dining room revenue, delivery, and takeout orders. The average dinner check runs around $45 a person, and revenue tends to split almost evenly between people eating in the dining room and people ordering through an app, except those two revenue streams carry completely different margins. On delivery, third-party apps typically keep between 20 and 30% of every order before the restaurant ever sees the money, and there is still the cost of insulated packaging needed to keep sushi cold and presentable for the entire trip to someone's front door. In the dining room, an all-you-can-eat format looks more profitable at first glance, since customers pay one flat price and eat as much as they want, but it hides the operation's quietest villain: waste. Fish that does not sell the same day cannot simply go back in the freezer and reappear on the menu later. It has to be thrown out for food safety reasons, and that loss alone can eat up between 8 and 12% of everything purchased, month after month without a single customer ever noticing that number. On top of that comes payroll, which in a Japanese restaurant tends to run proportionally higher than the industry average, since it requires a sushi chef, cooks specialized in frying and grilling, and a larger floor staff to keep pace with the intensity of an all-you-can-eat rush. Electricity also costs more than in most other restaurant types, since cold storage and deep freezing units run 24 hours a day every single day of the year, even when the restaurant is closed. And then there is seasonality most owners never fully plan for. Dates like Valentine's Day and New Year's Eve can double normal traffic, while a random Monday or Tuesday might not fill even 30% of available tables, forcing the owner to buy fish based on demand that does not always show up. There's also a cost that rarely shows up in outsider math: whole cuts of fish lost at bad butchering, or defects discovered only after the purchase is already made. Add up rent, ingredients, payroll, electricity, delivery commissions, and unavoidable fish waste. And most of the monthly revenue is already spoken for before the owner ever thinks about actual profit. Even portion control becomes a constant battle, since a slightly oversized cut of tuna repeated across hundreds of orders a week can quietly erase an entire month of margin without a single line item ever showing where it went. There is one number almost no customer would ever guess while paying for the most expensive sushi dinner in town, a number that completely changes how that packed dining room actually looks, and it is about to come out. If you want to understand the financial secrets most Japanese restaurants never share with the customer sitting at the table, hit that like button right now. It is what keeps investigations like this one getting made. After adding everything up: rent, ingredients, waste, payroll, electricity, and delivery commissions, the real net margin of a Japanese restaurant usually lands between 8 and 15% of total revenue, depending heavily on location and how tightly the owner controls fish waste. That means a restaurant bringing in $300,000 a month typically nets somewhere between $24,000 and $45,000, a far smaller number than the line out the door and the price of the menu would ever suggest to an outsider. Return on the initial investment usually takes between 2.5 and 4 years, and that timeline shifts dramatically based on two things: how well the owner negotiates directly with fish suppliers to cut down on waste, and exactly where the restaurant sits. Restaurants in upscale neighborhoods can charge more per plate, but they also pay dramatically higher rent, which can wipe out much of that apparent advantage by the end of the month. The real risks here are not small. Depending on a handful of fish suppliers leaves the restaurant exposed to any price swing or seasonal shortage. Turnover among qualified sushi chefs stays high because every restaurant in town is competing for the same small pool of talent, and growing competition from cheaper all-you-can-eat spots keeps pressuring margins, pushing many owners to quietly cut quality just to survive. On the other hand, an owner who manages to balance all of these variables ends up holding one of the few restaurant categories capable of commanding a high average check and loyal repeat customers at the same time, something rare outside the Japanese food world. The difference between a restaurant that thrives for years and one that closes within its second year almost always comes down to daily waste management. Not the quality of the food or the chef's talent, but how many pounds of fresh fish get thrown away every week without anyone on the outside ever noticing. There is one more factor rarely part of the math for anyone dreaming about opening a place like this: currency and import cost swing. Since a large share of premium fish is imported, a sudden price jump overseas can raise the cost of the main ingredient overnight, and the owner usually cannot pass that increase straight to the menu price without risking losing customers to the restaurant down the street. Owners who make it past that first brutal stretch, usually the first 3 years, tend to be the ones who already locked in steadier supplier contracts and learn to forecast almost exactly how much fish each day of the week actually demands, turning what used to be pure waste into recovered margin. This investigation reveals something that contradicts what most diners assume. The Japanese restaurant, treated as a symbol of luxury and easy profit, actually runs on one of the tightest margins in the entire restaurant industry, squeezed between an ingredient that punishes bad inventory math and a labor pool that keeps getting smaller and more expensive to hire. The expensive all-you-can-eat menu that seems to guarantee the owner a fortune actually props up an operation where every piece of unsold fish is money thrown straight into the trash, literally every single day of the year. Anyone who only sees the line out the door would never guess that behind that packed dining room sits a delicate financial machine, where the line between profit and loss can come down to a few pounds of salmon tossed out on a quiet Tuesday night. Next time you sit down at a Japanese restaurant, take a closer look at that plate of fresh fish, because behind every perfect cut sits a math problem that almost never closes, as neatly as it looks from the outside. Do you think Japanese restaurant prices should go up to cover that invisible waste? Or are customers already paying too much for the experience? Drop your take in the comments below.